Okay, so 3 weeks out, kicking off the week with squats. We've got 100 for 8 as the top set, so about the similar kind of weight range as it's been the past few weeks. So it's consistent, which I suppose is good. These all felt a lot worse than they looked, and that would go for the back offs as well. It was hot in the gym today, and I mean 30 plus degrees, and I think we were all feeling it in a way. So the heat definitely takes a toll, and this time of the year for us really shouldn't be that hot. But yeah, it's getting to that point where heavy weights in hot weather is definitely a lot more fatiguing than it used to be. So got the first set here of 92 for 6. The back offs all moved really well. Like I said, they look a lot better than they felt, but I was starting to get, even at the end of that top set, I was starting to get just a lot of muscular fatigue in the body in terms of, my shoulders were starting to get sore from holding the bar, and my legs and my knees. And I think what I'm realizing on these longer sets is that you really do need to try to stay in control, and that's the hardest part for me when it gets to those last few reps. Is my body's kind of like in such fatigue, and I can't even really feel some things like my feet sort of start to get a bit numb or tingly, and it's harder to stay in control at that time. But you can see after my sets, I'm just kind of like, wow, that's over. But I was really overall happy with the session. I didn't have too many issues with my quads or anything like that, so I can't complain too much. And I think I got through these at about a 7.5 to RPE 8, so can't complain there. So bench press coming up, we got 67.5 for the top double. Supposed to be at RPE 8.5, but it probably looks more like an 8 to me, as you will now watch. But I took 65 before that, and it moved like shit. And so, if I'd moved 65 like I'd moved that, I may have gone to 70. But I called it at that. I was really just happy with how it moved overall. So bench press, 55 were the back offs. The first set overly wasn't that great. They did get better as they went going 4 sets. So 4th set coming up, you'll see I'm a lot happier with sort of the control and the bar path and that sort of thing. But luckily it wasn't too hot at this point. But like I said earlier, it definitely is something that I'm going to have to take into consideration when it comes to recovery management, I suppose, with that excessive heat. Not having air conditioning in the gym. Alrighty, so for pin press, worked up to 65 kilos for a double at 7. Moved really well. Can't really complain about that. And then the back offs, just 58.5. So deadlifts coming up, disappointing, to be honest. 115 didn't budge off the floor at all, so the 122 program wasn't going to happen. So pulled 110, which seemed to be the double at 8. Yeah, not too much to say about it. Obviously, yeah, like you said, the numbers aren't exactly where we'd like them to be at this point. But I kind of got frustrated, and I was like, you know what, I must still be able to pull conventional. So I pulled 110, and then I pulled 120 for a double relatively easily, though technique is a bit off. Obviously, not having pulled conventionally for 2 months would do that, but I don't know, it was more or less like I had to prove to myself that there was still some sort of strength there in the deadlift. So I backed off to 100, and then did the sumo sets, setup included. But I've kind of come to terms with the fact that, you know, I think sumo is the best for me long term, and that it's just not going to be there this time probably. So maybe it was just a bad week. I won't know till next week, I suppose, when the peak starts. So fingers crossed, and just go out there and do my best. So that's really all there is to it. You know, something that I noticed having, you know, conventional and sumo sort of side by side or back to back is that the lockout and that hips through is a lot stronger in sumo than it is, maybe not stronger, well stronger, but a lot faster in sumo than it is in conventional. The hips snap quite fast, and so that's a good thing, but it's obviously breaking the floor that is my problem, and so that is just going to have to be something that we work on over time. And then 2 count, 55 for 4. Yeah, like I've said multiple times, bench press is just chugging along quite well. So I don't know, I kind of feel like maybe this extra pause work has been helping a lot more than, say, stuff like slingshot has. So definitely something to play around with, I suppose, once competition is over. And then the back-offs were just 50. So for slingshot, we worked up to 72.5 for 3 at 7, probably a bit more like a 7.5. Like I said last week, slingshot's just still feeling a little bit, I don't know, funky. So 65 were the back-offs. These felt a lot better. Definitely like a, you know, RPE sort of 6 kind of range. Then for 3 count, we worked up to 55. I know it's like 1 less rep, but I'm pretty happy that my 2 count and 3 count are fairly identical. This was a big jump up from what I've done in the past, and I was really happy that it looked basically the same. So just did 50 as the back-offs. Okay, so squats today worked up to 110 for the top double. I know it looks slower than an 8, but I think that the second rep was purely a technique fault that made it that slow. And if corrected, I would have been able to keep going. The delts forward thing, obviously I've just gotten that the morning of and still getting the hang of it. I think it will just take a bit of practice. Yeah, so it definitely, the warm-ups felt really good actually, surprisingly. Moved a lot better than I have in a long time. So that was a confidence boost. But, you know, I think misgrooving the top set and then combined with the heat, I just lost a lot of energy. So I tried one set at the back offset 100. I made it to 3 reps and called it there, just so I didn't want to fry myself anymore. So I just dropped it to 95. Yeah, like I said, the heat is going to become a problem for sure. Summer is going to suck, to say the least. But I'm going to start training later in the day, I think, just because it just zaps your energy and you just feel like crap the entire workout. But yeah, last set here. Still getting the hang of that cue. Like I said, I think the tempo squats will help later on in the week. So pause deadlifts, 91 as the top set. Misgrooved a couple of them. One, I think the last one, you won't know from the angle, but I started leaning really far to one side. I don't necessarily know why that happened, but yeah, overall happy with how they moved. You know, the one thing with sumo now is that I'm not getting any like pain that's anything more than, I suppose, just standard soreness, which is a positive, because I think in the beginning I was, you know, definitely getting hurt there in a bit, to the point where it was affecting other things, but I think we're past that stage now, which is nice. Back positioning, some are good, some are not so good. Trying to stay focused on getting them every time. So 77.5 was just the back offset. Yeah, see, that one wasn't that good. And finishing up with block pulls, 112 is the top set. You know, I did 115 last week, but I think that, you know, like I said, the heat just kind of zaps your energy, and I was just pretty fatigued and tired at this point. But one thing I did notice with block pulls is I have to sort of be conscious of is sometimes I feel like I'm just pulling up with my upper back and not pushing with the legs, and so that's something that I just have to be more conscious of. You know, the other thing that's really strange is that, you know, I train on a Lico bar, and so the knurling's pretty rough, but I never have any issues pulling from the floor, but for some reason block pulls just shreds my hands, and the grip is the hardest part, almost, because it just hurts so much. Or maybe I'm just being a bit of a sook. But anyway, we got 101 as the back off. These were much better than the top set. I kind of corrected myself. So finishing out the week with high bar squats, 80 as the top set. I think, you know, not doing these last week kind of hurt me a little bit there, but I was really happy with how these moved. They felt really good. That delts forward Q thing, I don't think would have worked with high bar, because I feel like I may have just let the bar roll off my shoulder. So I tried to stay more upright, because I feel like that's how high bar should be. So 70 was the back off. It was supposed to be 68 with the percentage, but honestly, I was lazy and didn't want to take the red plate off for a blue plate and load it up to 68. So I just did 70. I hope that's okay. So tempo squats are coming up. My apologies. I kind of forgot about the tempo part, to be honest. I guess I sort of just used it as practice for that new cue, and you know, I was pretty happy with how things moved. So 85 is the top set. one thing I wanted to, I guess, ask is, when I lean forward, I feel like my hips go back, and then I initiate with the knees, but it kind of looks like my hips are going first, which is not what I'm trying to do, but I suppose, is that kind of what it's supposed to look like? But anyway, I'll talk soon. Not long now.